I am sitting on a Japanese toilet. I mentioned this to you in a sermon recently. Now you can see what it looks like for yourself. The Japanese toilet comes with a remote control. The seat is heated. It washes you. It dries you. It does your taxes. It's incredible. It's luxury, bathroom toilet luxury at its finest. Today, we're going to see the other end of the extreme. In 1 Samuel chapter 24, we're going to read a story with somebody going to the bathroom, but they did not have a fancy toilet with a remote control. Their toilet was a cave. Let me set up the story. David kills Goliath. God sends the prophet Samuel to anoint him as the next king, which means King Saul has been removed in God's eyes as the king of Israel. Saul then is jealous of David. He hears people singing their songs that Saul has killed his thousands, but David has killed his tens of thousands. Saul is jealous. He wants David to die. He throws spears at David when he's playing music. Then David is running for his life. And if you read the previous chapters, he's hiding in the cave of Adullam. Then David with 600 men that he has following him. Then David is hiding in the wilderness of Ziph. We read that just prior to our passage today. If you ever wonder how David feels when he's going through these trials and tribulations, often you'll find the answer in the Psalms that he wrote. Many of you may be going through a trial or a tribulation. Maybe you're under attack from an enemy. And you would like to know how the saints of the Bible prayed during those times. Give you an example. When David was in the wilderness of Ziph, hiding from Saul, who's hunting him down with an army, David prays this prayer. And how do we know? Because Psalm 54 says, as a title, that it's a song David wrote when he was hiding among the Ziphites. And the Ziphites end up telling Saul, David's hiding. He's hiding among us. So David had to flee again. But this is what he prayed. He prayed, oh God, save me, oh God. Hear my prayer, oh God. That, verse 2. Verse 3, strangers have risen against me. Violent men are trying to take my life. Verse 4, behold, God is my helper. The Lord is my sustainer. He will recompense the evil to my foes. He will recompense. In other words, payback belongs to God. David always believed that vengeance belonged to the Lord. So the Ziphites tell Saul, David's hiding with us. As a result, David moves on, and we come to 1 Samuel chapter 24, and it tells us that David is now hiding in the desert of En-Gedi. So I've been there more times than I can count. It's quite remarkable. If you go down to South Israel, it's desert, sand and rock as far as you can see. But right there, in the middle of it all, there is an oasis called En-Gedi. This is a picture I took a few years ago at En-Gedi with my good friend Bob Fredrickson, and I'm standing in a waterfall. And not only was it an oasis, but there's all kinds of caves that you could see. David is hiding out with his men, 600 of them, in one of these caves. Meanwhile, verse 2 tells us that Saul has 3,000 chosen soldiers, and he's hunting David down. David is hiding out among the rocks of the wild goats, it says in verse 2. And verse 3 is where nature calls, and Saul has to go to the bathroom. So Saul, for privacy, leaves his soldiers, goes into a cave, takes off his cloak, and Saul the Bible tactfully says he is relieving himself. Verse 3, but David and his men were in the inner recesses of the cave. So David and his men see that Saul comes in. David and his men are in the very back of the cave. They're probably pressing their bodies up against the side of the cave so that Saul doesn't see them. Shh, everybody quiet. The men are now whispering to David, this is your opportunity. The man who's been trying to kill you has just walked into the cave where we happen to be hiding. This is your moment, David. Go take his life. If you don't want to do it, we'll kill him. This is it. And David, you would think, would take the life of the man trying to kill him. That's not what David does. David says to his men, I will not raise my hand against the Lord's anointed. Even though the Lord's anointed is trying to kill him. But Samuel, the prophet, had already anointed David and told him he would be the next king. David refuses to take vengeance into his own hands. He does this, however. He sneaks over quietly and he cuts off a corner of Saul's robe that he has removed. And then Saul leaves the cave. And when he's at a safe distance, David steps outside of the cave. And he calls out to Saul. Saul, what are you doing? He said, why are you chasing me? Why are you chasing a dead dog? Why are you chasing a flea? I mean no harm to you, but I could have. He holds up the corner of Saul's robe that he had cut off just to show him. I could have taken your life, but I didn't. And I won't, because you are the Lord's anointed. What's interesting is that the Bible says, as you read your chapter today, that David it says he's on his face, or he's, verse 8, has bowed his face to the ground and prostrated himself. Even if you don't respect the man, you respect the office. There have been many times in the political arena where we may not have respected the person in office, but we respect the office. And David, he says, I'm not going to hurt you. This is proof. I could have. Here's the corner of your robe, but I didn't. Because you're the Lord's anointed. And just as he prayed earlier in Psalm 54, listen to what he says in verse 12. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge me. But my hand will not be against you. In other words, I'm not taking revenge. I'm going to leave vengeance up to God. And there are times in your life, and unless I miss my guess, probably everyone listening to me can think of somebody who's hurt you. They stabbed you in the back. They lied about you. They attacked you. Somebody that you trusted. That makes it even worse. And it's so hard to forgive when you're the victim. It's so hard to let them off the hook when you're the one that's been wronged. But I believe we can learn a great lesson from David. Not only must we forgive, but we don't retaliate. We leave that up to God. Let God take revenge on this person who has hurt you. And ultimately, because David left it in God's hands, if you continue to read, ultimately David will become the king. But God is the one who put him on the throne. David did not take it himself. It's been said that bitterness, an unforgiving spirit, is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die. The only person it hurts is us. I know we're the victim. We're the ones who've been hurt. It seems like payback is the way to go. That's the theme of every Hollywood movie. Revenge. The bad guy gets it in the end. But here's the thing. The bad guy does get it in the end. But God is the one that issues the punishment. Not me and not you. And sometimes it happens in this life, and sometimes it doesn't happen until the next life. But I know that people who forgive, people that leave vengeance to the Lord, live much freer and happier lives. Now, forgiving someone doesn't mean you have to continue to let them in your life. I think it's ironic that, not ironic, but it's insightful. The very last verse of the chapter says, David swore to Saul, and Saul went home, but David and his men went back up into the stronghold. So David did not take his life. David forgave. David left payback up to God. But he was also smart. He went back to the stronghold because, yes, Saul was going to try to kill him again. Forgive a person, but you don't have to let them in your life to hurt you all over again. So be smart in that way. I'll conclude with this thought. From the cross, Jesus said, forgive them, they know not what they do. If Jesus could forgive his murderers, I can forgive whoever it is who did whatever they did.